Joe Rogan slamming his recent controversies as a political hit job on Monday's episode of his Spotify podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. And Rogan shared what it's been like since the controversy began.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, like, all this is a relief, because it's like, just because that video had always been out there.
Right.
It's like, this is a political hit job. And
Yes.
so they're taking all this stuff that I've ever said that's wrong and smushing it all together.
Right.
But it's good because it makes me address some that I really wish wasn't out there.
Rogan was referring to prior show he's done where he has used the N-word. There was a compilation video of all that, a mashup, essentially. Many of you have already seen or heard. Joining us now is Jacquie Jordan, the host of the Front and Center with Jacquie Jordan podcast. Jacquie, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. So,
Yeah.
as I understand, Joe Rogan is an acquaintance of yours. And you listening to him there, finally getting a chance to respond, calling it a political hit job because that content has been out there for years. Finally, someone chose to dig it up, put it together. Is he a victim of politics?
Well, it's so funny because as the White House has said, we need to put disclaimers on everything. So let me disclaim the fact that Joe Rogan and I are relatives. My grandmother and his grandfather are brother and sister. However, I don't speak for him. He doesn't need me to speak for him. Clearly, he speaks for himself. But I can speak for myself as a media professional of my own right and would support his position. And if anybody or my client were in a similar position like his, and yes, this is definitely a political hit job. In fact, I was at his show in October of 2019 in Los Angeles where he talked about this compilation reel. And even in his current or recent comedy act, he talked about the fact that, like, even he was frightened to see all of these clips strung together that were over, a decade of comedy put together. And he was like, wow. But in his comedy act at that time, he addressed it with humility and humor. And, there was a time when comedy was an art form here in this country.
Yeah, and many comedians are addressing exactly what you're talking about. Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, as you mentioned, President Trump, just to really paraphrase what they said in response to this, they said he shouldn't apologize. Stop apologizing. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I absolutely do not think he should apologize. In fact, he's in a very strong position to anchor truth and freedom. He started his podcast, I think, somewhere around 2008. He was a real front runner in podcast conversations in the whole platform of podcasts, and he's been very consistent to it. His fan base has grown organically. That's what the establishment doesn't like. He did not come through the sanctioned way that they deem people passable into higher positions of visibility, and they don't like the fact that he has a large audience that follow him. It's the same reason they don't like Donald Trump. Donald Trump came in through the side door, has a large audience that follows him, that they don't have control over the influence. That's what they want, is they want to control the influence he has on his audience. And what I love about his podcast, just genuinely as a listener, a viewer, is that he asks questions that from a place of curiosity that we don't see in a lot of the mainstream media. He asks those questions. He talks to those people. That's why it's a flavorful show. Perfectly imperfect.
He's curious, and clearly others are too. That's why Rumble's offering him 100 million reasons why to come to them for $100 million over 4 years. I mean, my goodness.
Talking about Spotify, Spotify made their reputation on supporting the independent artist.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan's one of their biggest assets, so may they continue to support the independent artist and the voice. But Joe Rogan's voice isn't radical. He's curious. He asks questions. He talks to interesting people.
Jacquie Jordan joining us live. Jacquie, good to see you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.